Hey friends, happy Sunday. How are ya? Are you getting ready for a big Independence Day today? So if you're watching this the first time it was posted, it's July 4th, Independence Day, and our whole lesson today is going to be about freedom. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about freedom in our country now, and then a lot about a Bible story about freedom, okay? You ready? Yeah, me too. Hey, so today, 4th of July, we get to celebrate freedom. Do you know that in our country, we are so blessed to be so free? We have the freedom. Well, you guys tell me, what are some things that we're free to do because we live in the United States? Yeah, you're right. We can vote. Yeah. We can say what we want to say, right? Girls, do you know that in some countries, there's not freedom to go to school if you're a girl? Could you imagine that? Yeah, yeah. And most of all, there's freedom to worship. None of us, you guys are watching this today on your TV, probably in the middle of your living room, or on your computer, or your iPad somewhere. You may even be out and about watching it, but you didn't have to hide away. In some countries, even today, they can't read the Bible or learn about Bible stories. They wouldn't be able to watch Miss Jamie. All right, they would have to hide away somewhere to be able to watch a Bible story like this. But not you guys, you can watch anytime. So I want to celebrate our freedom, and I love talking about how free we are. And most of all, I love thanking God for how free we really are. So I read this quote to you every year, and I thought I would share it just once again because I like doing things on a little anniversary celebration. But it's from John Adams, and he was one of our founding fathers. And so think about him back in 1776, and this is what he said. When someone said, what is Independence Day about? What are we going to do on Independence Day? So like you guys might go, I'm going to wear red, white, and blue. I'm going to eat burgers and hot dogs. I'm going to have popsicles. We're going to watch fireworks, right? Those are a lot of things Americans think about. Here's what he said. Here we go. I'm apt to believe, which means he's very excited and ready to do it, that the Independence Day will be celebrated by succeeding generations. So that part's true so far. Your grandparents, your great-grandparents probably celebrated. We're celebrating. You're celebrating. Your kids will celebrate. Your grandkids hopefully will be still celebrating our independence, right? Our freedom. And it will be celebrated by generations as a great anniversary festival. That means like every year. So kind of like you celebrate your birthday, we celebrate Independence Day. All right. And it ought to be commemorated as a day of deliverance. Now, do we think about that? Do we think about the gift of deliverance that our freedom is? And we should celebrate it by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty. That's what our founding fathers were saying. Isn't that awesome? We should remember God. We should remember that our freedom comes from God, right? Okay. It also be celebrated by pomp and parade and shows and games and sports and bells and bonfires and illuminations. Those are those great fireworks, right? From one end of the continent to the other, from this time forward and forevermore. So he was saying we want to celebrate this forever and ever. We want to remember. We don't want to forget the freedom that we've been given, and that freedom came from God, and we should thank God. All right? So will you guys do that today? I hope you will. I know you will. And that leads us right into our story, because we're going to talk about some times where people were forgetting a little bit. And they were forgetting their freedoms, and then their freedoms were taken away. All right, so in this time, there was a group of Jewish people, so the Israelites, right? And they had kind of forgotten about God. They'd forgotten what all those wonderful things from their ancestry and their history. They'd forgotten the things of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob that we've talked about, right? And they'd forgotten how God had carried people through generation after generation after generation. And because they'd forgotten, they'd become captive to the king of Babylon. And his name was Nebuchadnezzar. Can you say Nebuchadnezzar? Yeah, it's a big, long, kind of funny king name, right? But Nebuchadnezzar, we talked a couple weeks ago when we talked about good King Josiah, about good kings and bad kings. I'm going to put Nebuchadnezzar kind of over in the bad king part, right? All right, he was not a king that worshipped God. he had learned something of the greatness of God from the Israelites. So he'd had some influence of that, but he didn't understand that God was the one true God. He thought he was just one of the gods and that he was pretty powerful. He himself worshipped an idol, which he believed had made him into a great king. Now, the Jewish people who were his captives, right, at that time, you would think that if they were there and they were under his rule, they would just follow his worship and they would follow his false gods and idols. But when sometimes you've had a really good thing and you forget about it a little bit and then you know that it's missing, it's even more sweet, right? Well, that's what was happening to the Israelites. They were there and they were like, wait, we don't want to follow this king with these idols. Let us remember who the one true God is. Let us remember what he's done for us. And so that's where the Israelites were. God was teaching them, even in captivity. God doesn't forget about us, and God continues to teach us. And so through this story, he was teaching the Israelites. There was a prophecy by Jeremiah, who's a prophet, right? And he had said, for 70 years you're going to be in captivity, but then you will have freedom. So they had counted on that, and they wanted to make sure that their kids and their kids knew that God was there and he hadn't forgotten them. So here's where our story sets up. Then something happened, which made it hard for the Jews to worship their own God. The Jews were not the only people who had been carried from there had been people from all other countries that Nebuchadnezzar had brought into the capital city there. And all these people had their own gods. Oh, so sad for people not to know the one true God. Yep. Nebuchadnezzar believed that it was his idol, the one that he worshipped, that had helped him conquer this whole world. So to show his gratitude, the king had the workmen make a wonderful image of his God. And it was 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. So it was huge. And then they put gold all over it, right? And it shone in the sun and it glittered and glistened with great brilliance. Again, shiny things. Don't let us get distracted by things that are shiny or loud or bright, right? The one true God has the one true light. Don't let us get distracted by things that try to reach out and grab us with their glow of glimmer of gold, right? Okay, keep that in mind. Then Nebuchadnezzar gathered together all the princes and governors and captains and judges and counselors of the kingdoms and dedicated this image and set it before them. A herald was sent out with a trumpet, and he cried aloud, all the people, all the nations, when you hear the sound of the cornet and the flute and the dulcimer and all kinds of music, you are to fall down and worship the God of this image, right? Nebuchadnezzar's false god. And here's what he said. Whoever doesn't do that, whoever doesn't worship this, what we know to be the false god, you will be thrown into the fiery furnace. Whew. All right. No confusion there, right? It was pretty black and white clear. He was going to throw him in the furnace. The people knew the king would do what he threatened. Remember, he was one of the bad kings. They knew what that he would do it. He would throw them into the fiery furnace. And so when the music happened, they fell down and worshiped. They were afraid. All except for 3 men. The people bowed down except for 3 men. Those men were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Some other men told the king, and I love when they go in, and just kind of like the wise men went into King Darius, oh, brilliant king. So this is how they went into King Nebuchadnezzar. Oh, king, live forever. You made a decree that everyone should fall down and worship the golden image when they heard all sorts of music. Didn't you, though? And didn't you say that if they didn't, they'd be thrown into the fiery furnace? Now, O king, there are certain Jews who are not doing that, and their names are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The king became furious. Think of his rage. Show me your really angry face. Yeah, they were so angry. All right, so the king was angry. He said, gather them up and bring them to me. No one before had ever disobeyed King Nebuchadnezzar. All his subjects performed his slightest wish because they were afraid for their lives. So Nebuchadnezzar brought the three before, and he said to them, "Is this true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you are not bowing down and worshiping the idol that I've built?" I'm going to give you one more chance. So if you go and do it, I won't throw you into the furnace. And here's what they said. The three men bravely answered, "We are not afraid to answer you. Our God is able to save us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand. But even if he doesn't," listen to this again, "but even if he doesn't save us from the fire, still we will not serve your false god, nor will we worship the golden image that you set up." The king was so furious. So here's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're saying, you know what? We trust our God. He may save us, and he may not, in which case we'll go up to heaven to be with him. But no matter what, we are not bowing down to a false god. All right, so the king was so mad. He pulled in his biggest soldiers, and they bound up their arms, and he took the three men, and he said, "Turn the fire up 7 times stronger than it normally is." So normally it's a burning, fiery furnace. Now add that times 7. So it was so hot that when the soldiers took the men in, he threw in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The flames came out and burnt the soldiers to death instantly. That's how hot that fire was. There's no doubt that would kill anyone. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were in there, and Nebuchadnezzar watched. And soon something strange started to happen. And he called all his wise men around, and he said, "Wait, look in here. Did I not send 3 people into that fiery furnace?" And he said, "Yes, but now I see 4. Who could that be?" There was 4 men, and they weren't bound up. They were walking freely around. And the 4th one looks like an angel. The king went a little nearer to the furnace, and he saw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God. "Come out and come here." And so then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out from the fire, and the princes and the men all gathered around, right? And they stared, because not a hair on their head was burnt. Their clothes were not seared. All right? And they didn't even smell. Have you guys ever sat around a campfire? Yeah. When you sit around a campfire, your hair, your clothes, they all smell like fire. They didn't even smell like smoke or fire. The king, seeing this, exclaimed, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent an angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him, and those servants who dared to risk their lives rather than worship any god except for their one true God." So again, there they are, being kingdom changers, right? The king, the bad king, Nebuchadnezzar, who was cruel to his people and did not love and take care of them like our God would take care of us, right? His heart was changed when he saw the power of God. Just like those sailors saw the power of God with Jonah, right? Just like King Darius saw the power of God when Daniel was saved from the lions. All right? God is walking, and he's letting these people be kingdom changers. But can you be a kingdom changer? The answer is yes, you can. Do you guys remember in our Jonah story when we said that Jonah's sin affected all the people around him, right? All those sailors? Well, what about the opposite? Can our faithfulness, did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's faithfulness and trust in God affect the people around him? Sure did. All right, the king now saw the one true God. He was going to have his whole kingdom now worship the one true God. Same thing with Daniel. King Darius said, we're all going to worship the one true God. You can do the same thing. Stand up for what God teaches you. Hang on. Don't forget the freedom, the love, all that God has given to you. All right? Don't forget that. Step in line, Be the kingdom changer. Be the one that brings the light into the room. Watch as your faithfulness and your trust and your love for God will affect all those around you. You gonna do it this week? You're probably going out somewhere fun today. Be the light today. Be the kingdom changer. I know you guys can. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.